in Latin America. The Pope called Catholics to rise up against them in Mexico. Didn't seem to bother people like Chuck Colson or Pat Robinson or Jack Van Impe, but it bothered Jesus Christ. So, 2,000 years ago, nearly, the pontiff said, you can have any religion you want, but don't be a born-again Christian. Now, on the threshold of the 21st century, the pontiff still says, you can have any religion you want, but don't be a born-again Christian. Now, he wouldn't say that in the West, but he said it in Latin America. He wouldn't say it in the developed world. But let's continue. Makes no sense that Peter's the rock, but the Roman Church says he has the keys. Popes in the Middle Ages forced nations to go to war because they claimed to have the keys of who'd go to heaven and who'd go to hell. The Reformation was precipitated by Erasmus of Rotterdam, who wrote Julius Exclusus, how the Pope was not letting Peter into heaven because he had the keys. And of course, Luther picked up on this. If you really want to understand the Reformation, read Erasmus. Luther was simply the result. The Roman Catholic Church responded in the Counter-Reformation by burning the books of Erasmus and Luther, etc. And of course, the Bible was placed on the index of banned books. Why did the Roman Catholic Church place the Bible on the index of banned books? Why did Cardinal Rao in Florence during the Renaissance say the writings of St. Paul are disgusting? People should rather read the Greco-Roman classics, the pagan writers of Rome and Greece. Why? Well, when you read it, you see things don't add up. For instance, let's look at the book of Galatians, chapter 2, verse 11. But when Cephas came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. When is the last time you saw somebody stand up to the Pope? Paul stands up and publicly challenges Peter. When is the last time you saw a bishop or a cardinal publicly stand up and castigate the Pope in front of the rest of the church? And then God puts it in his word for all posterity? It just doesn't add up. Peter was an apostle. He was holy, but he was human. Nobody is infallible except Jesus Christ. When you take this infallibility and appropriate it to a man, you expropriate it from Christ. You take that which is Christ's and give it to another, you put another in his place. That is Antichrist. That's what it is. That's all it has ever been. Except the Roman Church says you must, and according to its imprimatur catechism, nihil ad obstat, I can prove it, says even when he's not speaking ex cathedra, you have to pay attention to what he's saying. Although the Word of God says nothing against Roman Catholic people or against any people, married couples practicing birth control, the Pope can issue an encyclical and say, don't do it, and if you do, it's a sin, because he said so. He's got the keys, you see. He forced nations to go to war. My mother's family is Irish Catholic. You know how the English first got involved in Ireland? There was a Celtic church going back to Columkill and Patrick, based on the book of Kells. If you read St. Patrick's Confessions or his letter to Drodicus, there was no Mary, no purgatory, no pope, only Jesus. And to put an end to the Celtic church in Ireland, Pope Adrian IV threatened to excommunicate a Norman king called Henry II if he didn't invade Ireland. How did the English first get to Ireland? The Pope sent them. You know how many people have died? Our ministry runs orphanages for AIDS babies and HIV children in Africa. The Pope went to Africa and he told poor black Africans not to use condoms. I don't mean for purposes of fornication. I mean not even in holy wedlock. So your husband or your wife are HIV positive, don't use a condom. You know how many people are dead because of what he did in Africa? People are dead. Children are dead because of Pope John Paul II's policy on birth control that has no biblical basis whatsoever. The only place birth control was forbidden in the Bible was one case. It was known as a levirate marriage, where you had to procreate children on behalf of a deceased brother. And you could not reduce his widow to a sex object or a concubine. She had to have children to take care of her in her old age. That was their social security, as it were. And the Yerusha, the inheritance, had to be perpetuated according to the tribal lineage in the book of Joshua. So you had to, for legal purposes, procreate a child for your deceased brother, so his widow would have someone to take care of her. You could not have coitus interruptus, exvaginal ejaculation. Birth control was outlawed in that one case, so you would not reduce your brother's wife to a widow to a sex object. That was the only time. But a papal encyclical, Humanae Vitae, oh, you can't do this. Says who? Says God? No. Says Christ? No. Says the pontiff. People are dead. Come with me to Africa. I'll show you what AIDS is really like. Think this Hollywood stuff with the movie stars is real AIDS? You don't know what real AIDS is. I'll show you people being buried standing up. The genocide in Rwanda between the Hutu and Tutsi. Dominican nuns are in prison for genocide. They killed 7,000 in one instance. The same Dominicans who killed people in the Inquisition had done it in Rwanda and Burundi. I can show you the genocide as a direct result of the policies of the Church of Rome and its clergy. I can show you the dead children. I can show you the AIDS babies. How can you tell somebody that they can't use a condom within the context of their marriage when their partner is HIV positive? Don't ask me, and don't ask God. God never said don't do it. If you want the answer, ask the Vatican. What did Jesus say? You bind heavy burdens hard to bear, but won't move them with one finger. Priests can go out and molest children when they want sex, and then the bishops will protect them. But the rest of you, die, black African. I've seen it. I've been there. Come to our orphanages and see for yourself. But let's continue. Well, he gave Peter the keys. Did he give the keys to Peter, or did he give the keys to the apostles corporately? But what are these keys? Can we go back to the words, please? Hitir and Asor in Hebrew. In Greek, luo and deo, to loose and to bind. For centuries they claimed the Pope had the right to bind and loose, even to the point he would say he has the keys. Who goes to heaven, who goes to hell? Does he? Turn to the book of Revelation, please. Chapter 3. Verse 7. He who is holy, who is true, who has the key of David. Notice the regal language. Who opens and no one will shut, and who shuts no one opens. Who has that key? Jesus. That is not the key, although popes have claimed to have such a key. Go back, please, to the Greek and Hebrew words. Luo and deo. Hitir and Asur. In a Jewish religious court, it's called a Bet Din. There are 613 commandments in the Torah. 10 commandments and another 603. A rabbinic Jewish court, the Bet Din, is presided over by someone called a Dayan, a rabbi who's a legate. Remember the Israeli general, Moshe Dayan, with the patch? He might have an ancestor who had been one. And they will issue something called halakhic decisions based on halakhic Judaism. What is permitted and what is not permitted. What is hitir, what is asur. What a Jew can do and what he can't. In order to save his or her life or the life of another person, a Jew can break every one of those commandments except for 3. They cannot commit idolatry, they cannot commit murder, or they cannot engage in incest or perverted sex.